Before we start this video, I want to mention that I'm going to be starting a sticker wall. Just like you see in other videos where all the stickers are up on the wall behind them, I'm going to be doing the same thing. All you need to do is send me an email and either send me a sticker in the mail or send me a digital format of it by email, and I'll be able to print it off myself on a regular sticker and post it on the wall. Also, I will post your YouTube channel and social media like Instagram, Twitter, stuff like that. So send me an email and I'll give you the details on that. Also, if you want, you can send me material for doing future projects. Like you want to see a project done, just send me an email, let me know, and I'll tell you how to send it to me. So I'm really looking forward to doing this and looking forward to seeing your stickers. Thanks and take care. Hello everyone, welcome back to my shop. Today I'm doing a video on how I upgraded my X-Carve CNC with a 3.8 watt laser from Jtech Photonics. I know Jtech Photonics has a detailed instructions on how to install it on an X-Carve, and there's even a video showing how to install it, but it's not quite as detailed. So I just wanted to do a video showing how I installed it on my X-Carve. It's really not hard and it didn't take a heck of a lot of time. So also I just wanted to mention, if you haven't subscribed already, please do so and hit that notification button. Also follow me on social media because I post a lot of things on there on the projects that I'm doing. And enjoy the video. First, I found a couple of thin sticks to put between the Z motor and the gantry to set my belt tension. You can also use a screwdriver or anything else to leverage the motor back for tensioning the belt. Use an Allen wrench and a socket or a box wrench to remove the nuts and bolts from the motor. Then just drop the motor down. With the top piece of the driver mount, remove all 4 nuts. Place the bottom piece on and reattach the nuts and tighten. And remember, this is printed plastic, so do not over tighten the nuts. And again, this is printed plastic, so some of the holes were a bit small for the motor mount screws. I just used a round file on the holes until they fit. Now you can place the driver mount on top of the gantry and replace the nuts and bolts, but do not tighten them yet. The first one is the hardest to reinstall. Now I use the sticks that I showed previously to place in between the Z motor and the gantry to set the belt tension. I used an Allen wrench and a deep socket for the front bolts and a box wrench for the back bolts, as a socket would not fit on the back bolts. checked the tension on the belt, and then I made sure all the bolts were tight with the box wrench. Now for the laser driver. You want to remove all 4 nuts completely and back off the screws more than I did here. This will ensure the laser driver will slide into the keyhole slots on the driver mount. Also on the driver mount, as I show here, make sure the nuts are parallel with the sides of the mount as they fit into the slots on the bottom of the laser driver. It's kind of a tight fit when sliding the laser driver on. I then put the nuts back on and use the socket to tighten them. But do not over tighten them. The screws can pull through and crack the plastic on the mount if you do. Now I'm running the wires. I opened the drag chain as much as I could right to the end. I then plugged in the power cable, laid that on top of the drag chain, then plugged in the PWM cable, laid that on top, and then closed up the drag chain. I then fished the end of the power cable through the bottom of the drag chain, and I also did this with the PWM cable and pulled the wires through and closed up the remainder of the drag chain. If you don't want to open the drag chain, you could just run the wires on top and zip tie them. Now I'm putting together the laser mount and fan. Place the 2 screws in the laser. Slide it onto the laser mount. Attach the fan bracket to the back of the laser mount. And then put the 2 nuts on and tighten the screws. Now remove the 2 nuts on the fan mount. Place the fan on the screws with the label facing towards the fan, and then reattach the nuts. And I just use a screwdriver and the socket by itself to tighten the screws. I should note this is for installing the laser on the outside of the spindle mount. Just reverse the mount for installing inside. Now you want to remove the 2 bottom M4 screws from the spindle mount and loosen the top M4 screw. You should be able to slide the laser bracket into the slot of the spindle mount. If not, you can use a flat screwdriver to open it up a bit. Replace the 2 M4 screws that you took out, not the M4 screws that came with the laser mount. They're just a bit too short. Then tighten the 3 M4 screws. And then from the back side of the spindle mount, you want to use the 2 nuts that were attached to the laser mount and attach those to the 2 bottom M4 screws and then tighten them with a wrench. I put a self-adhesive zip tie holder on the gantry, plugged in the laser wire, looped the wires, and stuck it underneath the gantry with a zip tie, and then zip tied them all together. It's a little tight and tricky to get in there. You can also cut the laser wire and shorten the wire, and then reconnect the wires to the green screw terminal as shown here by the arrow. You can also do this with the fan wire, but you'd have to resplice the wire onto the connector. I just chose to loop all the wires together and zip tie them all together. Now I opened up the drag chain on the y-axis so I can run the PWM cable and the power cable through it. Again, I didn't want to run the wires on the outside and zip tie it. I could not open the first one or two links of the drag chain, so I had to run the PWM cable under those two links. And because of that, I could not run the end of the power cable underneath that closed link, so I left that section of the power cable over top that link. I then threaded the rest of the PWM cable through the bottom of the drag chain and out the end. Now I'm taking the end of the drag chain off the rail by removing the two screws. Now I'm opening up the bottom section of the drag chain so I can run the other end of the power cable through the open section of the drag chain. So I connected both ends of the power cable together and then closed the top section of the drag chain. Then I soon found out that the other end of the power cable with a little block on the end there didn't fit in the drag chain on the bottom. Here I'm removing the last link of the drag chain, but I found out too that I also didn't need to do this. I took the end of the power cable, fed it through this end, connected up both ends, and then closed the links. It was a tight fit, but it did fit. It was a little tough closing them. I just left this section of the power cable outside of the drag chain. I then reconnected the last link. Then I reattached the drive chain to the rail with the two screws. I then zip tied all the wires together along the X and Y axis to clean them up. Now you're going to take the PWM wire and a mini Molex connector. Connect the black wire into the fourth screw terminal from the right as shown here, and then the red wire to the third screw terminal. And lastly, I zip tie the PWM wire together and connect the Molex connector to the back of the X controller. So that was the hardware installation, which actually went pretty easy. I also want to mention that I'm not sponsored by Jtech Photonics. I'm just doing this entirely on my own, just for putting the video out on showing them how it's installed. The software, on the other hand, has a learning curve. It was easy to install the program that I'm using, Laser Etch by Jtech Photonics, and Universal G-Code Center version 1.9, I believe. It has a learning curve. The Laser Etch, in the settings, the numbers aren't quite right, so I didn't realize that when I first started with it. So I'm trying to burn that, and it wasn't working. But with that being said, Jtech Photonics does have excellent customer support. I just sent them an email. They sent me the correct settings, but still I had to play with that a little bit, because different material burns differently or engraves differently on the laser. So it was a matter of learning some of the numbers, but that's trial and error. Learning the intensity, learning the speed of the CNC moving back and forth, focusing the laser. I have mine set at 2¼ inches right now. The 3.8 watt comes pre-focused at 1½ inches, but that's actually too low with the spindle in. If maybe if I move the spindle up or whatever, but I'm not playing with those settings on that because I have that set perfect right now. You can set it up higher if you want. It's just a matter of setting it up, focusing the laser, and that's that. Safety. Always use the glasses when you're using the laser. It's just like a welding arc. It can blind you. It's very intense light. Also, if you're wondering how I did it with the camera, I just put a red filter on the camera and it worked fantastic. So with that being said, also if you have any comments or questions or suggestions on the software that I'm using, Laser Etch and Universal G-Code, send me a message. I'd love to hear from you. Any comments on future videos that you'd like to see, like in either engraving something, cutting something. I'm still learning, so I will send you a message back as to whether or not I'll do it, but still send me a message because I do appreciate hearing from you. And if you haven't done so already, hit that subscribe button. Excuse me, hit the subscribe button, and also hit the notification button for when I do a new video. Also follow me on social media because I'm posting lots there as well. So I hope you've learned something with this video, got something out of the video that's useful. That was it. Thanks for watching and take care.